Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Lunch and Learn webinar. My name is Carla Freire, and I'm a program manager here at Enterprise Nation. For those of you joining an Enterprise Nation Lunch and Learn for the first time, we're a vibrant community of small businesses and business advisors that exists to shortcut your route to trusted business support. Please feel free to share a little bit about yourself, your business, and where you are tuning in from in the chat. Today, I'm pleased to introduce Leisa Pickles. She will break down the art of effective telephone interactions and share her tricks to deliver your key messages, making sure they hit the right note every time. If you have any questions, please put them in the chat or the Q&A function, and we will do our best to answer them at the end of the session. Today's webinar is being recorded, and we will send a follow-up email later today with that recording and further resources. So without further ado, I will now hand over to Leisa for her presentation.
Brilliant. Thank you very much. And thank you to everyone that is joining us live. I have a feeling by the number of people that have registered for this webinar that this is probably a topic that you all want to know more about. So thank you very much for being here. So my name is Leisa Pickles. I run a business called Find Me the Leads. We work predominantly with food and drink producers, helping them find and connect with key decision makers, which involves a lot of telephone interaction. And as I was just saying, as we were waiting for you all to join, the telephone remains without a doubt our most effective tool of communication, and is one which is very much front and center of our sales outreach program. So I'm really pleased to be here today taking you through this. So let's have a look at what the objectives for today's session are. So I want to take you through some very practical steps which will help set you up for success when using the phone as a sales outreach tool. How to land your key messages with confidence. Confidence being a really key word when it comes to using the telephone, and how to keep the momentum going. So once you've got a bit of success, or once you've started going, how do you keep going? So before we start, I think it's really important to just touch on the way the telephone as a communication tool makes a lot of people feel. So if you Google the definition of cold calling, this is what comes up. So a form of sales solicitation. It just sounds yucky. It just sounds like, why would I want to do that? You know, why would I want to be that salesperson that is making the unsolicited call to a customer who I've never interacted with before? And I think it's really important to touch on this, because this forms a lot of the mindset that a lot of people have when actually picking up the phone and making those interactions. But as a result of today's session and actually moving forward, I want you to think of the telephone more in the context of this. So you are, as a small business owner or as a sales professional within a small business, you are simply picking up the phone to a potential customer or client to tell them about your product or service and how it can help them. So it's really important to remember that. So you have a product or service that can help the person on the other end of the phone, or indeed fix a problem that they are currently experiencing in their business. So if you've done your research and you are contacting people who have a legitimate interest in the product or service that you're selling, why wouldn't they want to hear about it? So I want you to think about this and retain this in your mindset, that actually when you make these calls, you're doing that person a favor. And I think that this will help you feel happier, less icky, and more confident when actually picking up the phone and making connections with your potential customers or clients. So how can you set yourself up for success? So there are 5 actionable techniques which you can take on board, which will help you succeed in your telephone interactions and making them more effective. So the first thing is all around time. So this is about a time for you and a time for them, i.e. the person that you're contacting, which is most likely to get you the success and the results that you are looking for. So don't squeeze this into a spare half an hour that you have in your day. Don't do this on a day when you're having a particularly bad day. Do it. Schedule time into your diary that works for you and is going to enable you to actually succeed in your interactions. It's not all about you, newsflash. So it's really important that that time that you choose is aligned to the prospect that you are contacting. So for example, when contacting B2B, which is primarily what we do, we don't tend to contact businesses on a Monday or a Friday. The reason we don't do Mondays is because if they're working in an office environment, Monday is very much around catching up and setting new goals for the week ahead. If it's a retail environment, which is also a sector that we contact on behalf of clients, a lot of retail is actually closed on a Monday. So if you're scheduling Monday as a day to do your telephone interactions, guess what? It's probably not going to be the most effective use of your time. But also make sure you choose an appropriate time of day. So probably avoid 9 a.m. when everyone's just getting started, and probably avoid, last thing on a Friday when everyone's keen to get out of the door. And certainly if you are contacting businesses within a retail or indeed a hospitality environment, which is a lot of what we do not contact them between 11:30 and probably around about 2:00, because that is when they are busy doing their lunchtime service if they are a hospitality outlet. So this is just factors for you to consider when you're planning this time in your diary. It's important to get comfortable. So pick a location. So if you feel a bit awkward about doing this and you work in a big office, I would really encourage you to book a meeting room, or indeed ask your boss if you can work from home on this particular day. I know a lot of people feel really uncomfortable about the prospect of their colleagues listening into their conversations. And I think whilst you're getting in the flow and whilst you're building your confidence, it's really important that you are somewhere where you're free from distractions. That also means distractions, external distractions. So, if you have a particularly vocal dog, which I do, and I've just removed him from the room, make sure that that's out of the way. Don't start making your calls just at the point when you're expecting Amazon to knock on the door. Make sure that you're setting yourself a time and a location where you're likely to be undisturbed. And pick the right equipment. So whenever I'm making my sales outreach calls, I use my mobile phone and I always use my AirPods, because that means that my hands are free to write any notes that I need to write. And it also means the quality of my call is higher than it would be if I was holding it to my ear or speaking into speakerphone without any headphones. So really just get comfortable and relax into it. Set an objective. So what is the reason for the call? So are you calling to find out the name and the contact details of the decision maker? Are you phoning to speak to the decision maker to get them to say yes to some more information that you want them to send through? What is the reason for your call? You are not phoning to say hi and have a chat. You are phoning for a reason. So be really clear in terms of what that is. What success look like for that call? So at the end of the call, I will have spoken to the decision maker, got their name, got their email address, got their telephone number, whatever that looks like. So be really clear what you want to get out of it before you actually even pick up the telephone. So be bold. So own the conversation, have a clear tone of voice, own the conversation, don't waffle, don't use ums and ums and fillers, and get to the point. So I timed myself once in terms of how long it took me to land a key message on a telephone interaction, and it was actually 20 seconds. So really get straight to the point, because you don't know how long that person has. And let's say, for example, you phone and you get through to the right person. I mean, that would just be wonderful. Make sure that you've got your key messages and you are delivering them succinctly and in a timely manner. And as I've said, all killer, no filler. So be really clear. Don't use lots of "I'm sorry, would it be okay," etc., etc. So make sure that you have the points that you want to get across, and get them across clearly and concisely. So I don't write a telephone script, but I do certainly have a crib sheet before I make my telephone calls, which has on it the key messages I want to land. And I think that really helps. This is about, as I said at the start, building confidence. And if that gives you the confidence that you need to succeed, then go ahead and do it. And don't apologize. Don't phone and say, I was wondering if it would be okay, or sorry to bother you, that type of thing, because that suggests a lack of confidence, and that suggests that actually you feel that you have no reason to be contacting them, which, if you refer back to the point I raised at the beginning, is absolutely not the case. And remember to smile and breathe, be confident, be clear, smile, because smiling whilst you're doing it, I know it sounds silly, is going to make you come across better. And just keep remembering, I have something they want or need. So what does that look like? So this is an example of what not to do. So, hello, sorry to bother you. My name is Lisa, and I'm calling from a company called Find Me the Leads. We work with a number of independent producers, etc., so on and so forth. So there's lots of extra words in there which really are unnecessary. And by starting with "sorry to bother you," it really frames the way in which you then go on to proceed with that conversation. So it could look something a bit more like this. Hi, it's Lisa from Find Me the Leads. We work with a number of independent producers, etc. So straight to the point, and there's my call to action at the end. So what is their email address? So there's no, would it be okay if I sent some information on an email? It's asking for it. So you are being bold, owning the conversation, and speaking with authority to that person. So there are all some techniques in terms of how to set you up for some success. This is around the momentum and how to keep it going. So it's important to say that the first call is always the hardest. And once you've got over that, you will really start to build up a bit of a flow and actually relax into it and start to feel more confident and find your flow in terms of the conversation and how you want that to progress. So yes, use a crib sheet. It doesn't have to be something that you stick to rigidly. It is definitely a prompt to help guide you through the conversations. And as you build your confidence, you'll find, what resonates and what gets the best response from the people that you are speaking to on the other end of the phone. So how to keep the momentum going? Well, keep it fresh. This is a conversation. I was saying at the start before you all joined that, actually the telephone could be one of your best ways to stand out from your competitors. So I think it so often now we're just constantly firing out emails, which are very easy to get ignored and are actually, quite impersonal. How many instances do you know where you've received emails and then the person has actually followed it up with a phone call? This could be your secret weapon. This could be a way that you stand out from your competitors. How amazing that your potential customers or clients are saying, I remember that person because they took the time to pick up the telephone. So let the conversation flow, vary the time and day. So see what works. Do a morning slot, do an afternoon slot, see where you get the most response, and just rinse and repeat that really. So it's really important that you do the follow-up. So if somebody says to you, they're not in today, can you call back on Thursday? Or they say, he's just popped out to do a delivery, or he's on his lunch break, or whatever that looks like. If they ask you to call back on a particular day or at a particular time, you need to do it, because that demonstrates that you are a professional and actually you're listening to what they say. And as I said right at the beginning, you're doing what you need to do to set yourself up for success. It's really important that you track your progress. If somebody tells you they don't want you to call them anymore, you need to listen to that and not call them anymore. But it's also important to track your progress, because that will help you see how many times you've interacted with that person. I just use at the moment a very simple spreadsheet, because I want to be able to share. Well, actually, I use a Google form, which is shared with the other people that work on the projects with me, so that we can see exactly collectively how many interactions or how many attempts we've made to get through to that key decision maker and what they've told us. So each time you call, see it as a build on the previous interaction. So use that as a conversation starter. So I called you on Thursday, or I called last week and you weren't in, or do you remember I called last week, or we called you whenever. And this is obviously something that will be easier to track if you are tracking your progress. So again, it demonstrates that you're not a one-hit wonder, and you are really trying to get through to them and have those effective interactions. You also need to hold yourself or others accountable for this as a process. So set a target and share it. So that is quite simply at this stage, when you're starting to really sort of own the conversations and own the telephone as a communication tool. This week, I'm going to make 10 calls, 20 calls, 5 calls, whatever that looks like. So set yourself up for success, because again, if you set yourself that target and you achieve it, that's going to build your confidence and make you want to go into the next week or the next interaction with more confidence, knowing that you're nailing it in terms of your targets. And also share it. So is there somebody within your team that you can ask to hold you accountable? So say to that person, or indeed, if you work alone and it's another small business buddy, maybe you could set a target each and then you hold each other accountable. Because it is typically the first thing that slips off the to-do list, when you get busy, which everyone does, that 1 hour or 2 hours spent, doing some prospecting over the telephone is the first thing that will get bumped off the to-do list. So could you have a co-working session? So I am about to launch a membership for food and drink producers, helping them expand their points of distribution. And as part of the membership, we're going to have a monthly session where we actually sit together for an hour on Zoom doing our prospecting. And I'm going to encourage, my members to use that time to make their telephone calls or to send their emails. Because again, that is a diarised piece of time that they're spending, and we will hold them to account. And if you work with more than one person and you're all responsible for doing a bit of this, can you get a bit of friendly competition going? So if you're a natural salesperson, you will thrive on that competition. So, if the person that you work with is making 10 calls and you're only making 7, hopefully that's going to spur you on to meet them and it actually exceed them. So think about, this is what I'm going to do. How can I get other people involved to hold me accountable and actually, help me succeed? So this is a whistle-stop tour. This is a really, really broad subject and something that I could speak on for a long time. But hopefully in that whistle-stop tour, I have taken you through some really practical, actionable techniques that you can use to help set you up for success, help you make help you land your key messages with confidence every time, and then also keep the momentum going. So you can connect with me via the Enterprise Nation platform. If you want to do that, please do. If you want to discuss this subject in more detail with me, I'm really happy to do that. The QR code on the right-hand side is a link to a weekly sales soundbite newsletter that I send out, which has, again, hints and tips for small business owners to help them really own and take control of their own sales processes. So thank you very much for listening. I hope we've got time for questions. I'd very much like to hear from you.
Thank you so much, Lisa. We have some questions. So the first question is, what are the key fact finders or questions to ask to close a deal?
So I would, so are you, this is a question back to this person. So are you using the telephone to get the sale? So are you that far down the sales process that the telephone is now what you're using to get a yes or no answer out of that person?
Let's wait for a second until Chantal replies. And we can go to another question and then come back to your reply. Oh,
because I would say, just building on that, I would say that the telephone is not going to get you a deal straight away. So the telephone is definitely a communication tool to weave into your interactions, but you're not going to pick up the phone, make a connection for the first time and get a deal over the phone there and then. This is something which, like anything, is going to take time, but it would be interesting to hear from that person whether they're using the telephone to get the deal during the course of the sales process.
Perfect. She says like she's working on partnership with charities, I think.
Okay.
Read on the chat.
So what I would say is never use any communication tool in isolation. So I was saying to you, wasn't I, before we went live, that we use the telephone and the email very much in tandem. The reason being that the email provides the factual information, the telephone is the relationship building side of that, and we use the telephone interactions to refer back to the email, if that makes sense. So what I would say to her is that she needs to add an element of time into these interactions. So this is not an open-ended process that goes on and on and on. You need to set yourself, I'm going to get an answer from this person by after however many interactions, or after however much time you are spending making that interaction, if that makes sense. So the way that our process works is that we have a three-strike approach. So we speak on the phone 3 times, we send an email 3 times. If that person still doesn't respond, then we send a final email, which is, it's obviously not the right time for you. However, we'd love to stay in touch. We're going to add you to our what we call a nurture list, so our email list, so that we can keep in touch. But you need to sort of recognize that this is just part and parcel of the process, but it's not one that can go on and on forever, because eventually you'll get fed up and lose the confidence and the momentum, and that person potentially will get fed up of hearing from you too. So you really need to think, how many times am I going to contact this person? And when you've done that, I would then think about where to move them to. But the most effective way to ask for the sale is to get the sale is to ask for it.
That's a great advice. And we have another question, is if you have any suggestions about where to research potential leads, business to business.
Okay, so there are lots of businesses that will offer to sell you lists. I do not advocate this. So I have bought a list once in the 6 years of my business, and I vowed I would never do it again. And this is the reason why. That information is information which is widely available to lots of businesses. If you put that into your email marketing platform, like, I use MailChimp, for example, it's very obvious to MailChimp that that's a bought list. So that is going to get you negative points with your email marketing platform and limit the reach of your emails to the right people. This particular list that I bought, I did it because I was working with a slightly different type of client. So we were trying to identify HR professionals in a particular geographical location because they were selling corporate wellbeing packages. And that's not an area that I've worked in before. So I just thought, I'd found someone that looked like they were, doing the right thing in terms of selling these lists. So I thought, I'm going to give it a go, nothing ventured, nothing gained. And it was very clear very quickly as we were working through this list that the quality of the data was not great. And we found that out, or the final straw was when we contacted somebody that was on the list, and their colleague said, I'm really sorry to inform you, but that person actually passed away 3 years ago. And it was just a really heart-sinking moment. So I would not advocate buying a list. I would very much encourage you to create your own list based on what you know about your existing or potential customers. So where are they located in the country? Which sector are they in? What is the position that the key decision maker holds? So for example, I'm about to hopefully start working with a client who provides training for staff on the importance of wills. So they're looking for companies with a minimum of 50 members of staff located in the East Midlands. So there's 6 counties within the East Midlands. And they want to find the HR director because they know from experience that that's the person who has the potential to unlock the budget to invest in the service that they're providing. So that is a desk-based exercise, researching those type of businesses in the location. But I would very much encourage you to do that yourself based on what you already know about your existing customers.
That's really good. And Toby asked like something related to that. If you don't know the relevant decision maker when you make the first call, how do you go about asking for them as you don't even know the role?
Yeah, you need to think about the role that they might occupy. So anyone that has the authority or the budget holder. So the conversation would go something like this. So you would say, "Hi, it's Lisa from Find Me the Leads. I would like to send some information about our sales outreach programs to your HR director. Can you tell me their name and can I have their contact details?" In an ideal world, they would go, "Of course, Lisa, please send it to Joe Bloggs. Joe Bloggs' email address is, and Joe Bloggs' telephone number is." But it's about that speaking with authority. So if you phone up and say, "Hi, it's Lisa from Find Me the Leads," and then ask your question, it's almost like you have permission to be making that telephone call. And that will make you feel, like that as well. If you phone and say, "Hi, my name is Lisa. I'm calling from a company called Find Me the Leads, blah, 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 blah," it doesn't quite land as well or with the same level of impact. There's a lot that you can find out before you even contact that business, so do your research. But if you don't know the decision maker, you're going to have to pick up the phone and ask that question.
Toby says, great advice. Thank you. And just to wrap up, do you have any final top tips for our audience?
Say that again, sorry.
Just to wrap up, do you have any final top tip for our audience?
Yeah, this really is, I cannot stress this enough, this really is about confidence and owning these telephone conversations. So it is a thing to do which so many people dread and fear, and I really get that. I totally do. but you've just got to, get yourself comfortable, think about the right time, think about the equipment, put all of those basic factors in play that are going to set you up for success, and just make the first call. That one is the hardest, and that will spur you on to keep going. So my advice would be, own the conversation. You have authority to make that conversation, so do it, and just do it. Just pick up the phone and make that first interaction, and it will spur you on to keep going.
That's great. Leisa, thank you so much for joining us on today's Lunch and Learn. It has been lovely to chat with you, and a big thank you to our lovely attendees for joining us this Wednesday as well. We will be sharing the recording and further resources in a follow-up email this afternoon. And thank you, Leisa, again for joining us.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.